we're going to get started, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone this afternoon to our second Master Plan Community Forum. We're moving into our Phase 2, which is what we'll be discussing this evening. We have a presentation from the consultant, and then we also have an open house style where you can access the boards and provide your input on the material that we have today. The presentation from the consultant will be a 25-minute presentation. It will be done at 2:50 and then again at the end of the session. So if somebody comes in late, but these people are already here, or you're talking to somebody, let them know that they can stick around and see the presentation once we conclude the stations. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Mayor Charles Kokoris.
Thank you, Melissa. First, I just want to introduce our consultant, J.M. Goldson, and with our consultant, we have Jen, Elena, and Livsley, who are here with us today. And I also want to just thank again and name our Master Plan Steering Committee, because years ago, when I was on the planning board, I remember all of the work that goes into this, and meetings and research and breakout groups and stuff. So our chair is Jen Wadlin. Our vice chair is Kay Young. We also have members David Cunningham, Councilor Julia Flaherty, Peter Herbst, Justine Huang, Erin Joyce, our chair of the planning board, Shelley North, Elizabeth Page, Councilor Joe Reynolds, and Raina Rubin. So really appreciate all the work that they've done to this point, and look forward to their deliberations on the data that we've been able to collect. And I just want to, I'm not going to take too much time, I just want to talk about, how do we get here? A few years ago, there was a notice sent out to everyone in town about a comprehensive rezone. And we had this entire building filled, and the parking lot was filled like it is now. Unfortunately, it was filled by our neighbors. We'll have a talk about that later. But anyway, so I think that it was evident that the residents of our town wanted to have a master plan, an updated master plan done, and that's why we're here. And, it's thanks to the council for approving the funding that I requested initially to get us here, and I think it's been well spent, and we have a great consultant. But the most important component is public participation, and that's why when we started to look at how are we going to do this master plan, it was the most important thing was to make sure that the voices of our residents were heard. It doesn't matter what the mayor says, it doesn't matter what the planning board says, it doesn't matter what anyone says if it's not supported by the residents. And I think that the survey that was done was extensive, and I think that you'll see the results as we move into the next phase, which is the visioning. There's a lot of data there, and it really is going to help the Master Plan Steering Committee and you, the residents, formulate our next 10 years here in Braintree. So I think that I just want to take a moment and thank everybody, the nearly 1,500 folks that responded to this survey, and all of you folks that are here today and all the folks that are watching for participating in your town's future. And we will continue to listen to what you want Braintree to be, and we will continue down that road to make sure that the vision for the next 10 years is what the residents of Braintree want. So with that, I just want to thank everyone once again that are involved. I want to thank Melissa Santucci. I want to thank Connor as well. I know how much hard work they put in every day, and they put into this as well. So I think that we have a great setup here for all kinds of engagement in the master plan. And I'll tell you, in '98, we didn't do anything like this. This is amazing to see the public participation in this particular master plan. So with that, I just want to thank everyone and introduce Jen Goldson, our consultant. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you so much. Alana, could I have you come up and do the slides for me? I'm going to try to walk a little closer to folks. I have a 25-minute presentation, unlike the mayor who had a 5-minute one, and so I want to make sure that my voice doesn't give way. This is not a mic that is going to do anything for you to help hear me. It's only helping the folks watching on TV hear me. So what I'd also like you all to do, there is lots of space to move up. If you don't mind, I did have COVID last month, and my voice is still a little bit strained, although I think I can project pretty well. If you all could please move up as much as you can, I'd like to bring you out of the back so that I don't feel that I have to yell for 25 full minutes. I'd really appreciate that. There's so many seats, and please, I know people hate sitting in the front row, but if you could, I promise I'm not going to spit on you or anything. That would be awesome. If you don't mind moving up, I really appreciate those of you who did that. Okay. And I'm going to have Alana just take care of the slides for me. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I gave a presentation earlier this week, and in about 10 minutes in, my voice gave out, and I was like, and then you can see that, and I was crying, not because I was sad, but because my voice was giving out, and it was terrible. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen today. So thank you for moving up as much as you can. I appreciate that. All right. So I'm Jen Goldson. I'm a planning consultant, and the most important thing that I can do for the town of Braintree is set up a process where you all feel heard. And if I'm not doing that well, then I'm sure you're going to let me know. So we are in the second phase of this master plan process, and I'm going to walk you through exactly where we are. So if you can just go to the mayor mentioned the master plan committee by name, and we have them all listed here on the slide. Master plan committee members who are here, if you could please stand and let the audience see who you are. Wonderful. And Erin is already standing. Some of you are already standing. Great. So this is the group that's really overseeing this entire process. We meet roughly monthly, and we'll be doing that for about 18 months. So let's go to the next slide. So what are we doing today? Today, Melissa said, notice all these boards around the room. What we're doing today is trying to understand what you want to see in Braintree in the next 10 years. What do you want to stay the same? What do you want to be different? And so we're asking you to envision the future, and we are giving you a task that I hope you'll feel is fun. We're saying, imagine you had a magic wand, and you don't need to worry too much today about feasibility and how you're going to do things and where the money comes from and, anything like that. We want you to just use your imagination within reason. We don't want to say move Braintree to the moon or anything crazy like that. But within reason, we want you just to dream today and really think about if you were to look back 10 years from now, what would you hope would happen in that decade? So I'm going to say 10 years from now, I'm going to be 61. And so if you just think for a moment, I want to put you in that future mindset. You don't have to tell me what your age will be in 10 years, but just think. 10 years from now, how old will you be? What kind of stage in life will you be in? I'm hoping you'll still be here. Maybe you have children. Maybe you can think about how old your children will be. Will they still be here? And just help you to start to think about the future, because that's what we're doing here today. Next slide. So the vision is really a dream about what's possible in the next decade. It's aspirational. And then we're going to spend the next number of months figuring out, okay, if this is the dream, what's realistic and how do we get there, or at least as close as we can. Next slide. So I think it was the mayor who just said that in 1998 you did your last master plan, and I actually know the firm that did that. They're colleagues of mine, and they're very well respected. But in the 90s, in 98 when you did it, this kind of process was not the same. We really focus a lot more now, because we know better, that the plan cannot be the master plan committee's plan. It can't be just the planning board's plan. It can't be just the mayor's plan. And it certainly can't be my plan. I'm not a member of your community. I'm simply facilitating your process. And so that's why we think having all of these meetings and engagement platforms and the survey, and we'll talk about the other things going on, having those is so important. And so thank you for being here. So in 1998, the town of Braintree came up with a vision, and I just wanted to read it for you. Raise your hand if you were involved in that process. Great. All right, and I know the mayor was. Yep. All right, so I'm going to read this to you. It's a little long, but I think it's worth hearing. It might be interesting for you to look at the whole master plan. It is online. If you Google Braintree Master Plan 1998, this will come up. But basically what you wanted in 1998 was, I can't even see it, a town. Can you hear me if I stand over here? Okay. A town which affords high quality of life for its residents, as reflected in the appearance of the public realm of the town and measured in the provision of public services and quality of infrastructure. That's the first sentence. The second, it is a town of single-family neighborhoods, effectively buffered, both visually and physically, from the impacts of commercial and industrial development, and adequately served by neighborhood commercial areas. Can folks in the corner hear me still? I'm talking loud enough? Okay. The next sentence is, basic among the amenities provided is a functional and efficient system of public infrastructure. Braintree is in a position to spread the fiscal burden of provisions of such services and amenities to the business community by managing development in the town in ways that examine benefits and minimize negative impacts of the town. So that was your vision back then. The master plan is a lot longer than that, gets into a lot more detail. In the ellipses there, I did cut out a little bit of examples that they gave, but essentially that was your vision back then. So let's go to the next slide. So I'm going to talk about what's up on these boards in a little bit. But let me just walk you through a little bit about what does a master plan typically include. How many of you came to the prior public forum? Could someone just, great. Okay, quite a few of you did, thank you. And I actually can't remember when we did that. Was it in May? May, thank you. Okay. How many of you have been attending any of the master plan committee meetings, which are all open to the public? Great. A few of you. Yeah, great. Thank you. All right. So you may know this already because we covered this in some detail at the last forum. There are 8 elements of a master plan. There's just looking at land use. How is your land use? What does zoning allow you to do? How much open space have you preserved? We look at housing, economic development. So that's 3. So land use, housing, economic development, cultural and historic resources, open space, natural resources, and recreation. And then we have public services and facilities is 7, transportation, circulation, and transit. And we add this, it's not actually in the statute, but we add sustainability and resilience because we know how important the town knows that that is. So those are the elements we talked a lot about last time. And we're not going to get too much into the details tonight, or today rather. I usually do this at night. We're not going to get too much into the details today because we covered so much last time. But if you have any questions about what we learned, I have some of it in my head. I have some of it in my notes. I also have the PowerPoint with me from last time just to make sure if anybody has a specific question. So see me. If I don't know the answer, I can tell you where to find it. Okay? All right. Next slide. So this whole process isn't just about figuring out what the town wants and trying to get a majority vote, so to speak. It's really more trying to figure out where the tensions are, where are the opportunities, where are the synergies, and there are tensions in every community we've worked in. There are natural tensions between these elements. And so in some communities we've worked with, the tensions have been greater than others, and there have been past history or recent history that have made those tensions feel really exacerbated. And from what I understand, that is the situation that this town is in. And I just want to highlight that the point of this process, and I think the whole reason that you wanted to do a master plan in the first place, is to try to help you resolve some of those tensions to the extent that you can. Could you just raise your hand if you think I summarized that appropriately? Okay, thank you. All right, next step. And so this is really all about balance. Now, some people might not like that word balance. I don't mean balance in the sense that every single thing will be equal. What I mean is the balance will be different. How you create a balance between these tensions, between these competing interests, between folks who want to see preservation of neighborhoods and folks that want to see probably that and other things as well. How do you balance that? And so I can't tell you the answer to that, and I'm not even going to try, because that's what I want you to try to do. And so this whole process will be about how do I balance these things out. And you'll see that we took a first stab at doing some of that in the vision statement components that we have around the room. I'm going to give you a better orientation to what's in the room. But just so you know, this is our first stab at trying to figure out how do we balance some of those things that are already going on in the community. And that's what we want your opinion about. Do you think we got that balance right or not? And what can we change? Next. So this planning process is 18 months. We're already about, I didn't count up, but we're in phase 2, so we're here in, what month is it? It's October. So we went from February to October. So someone can do the math for me and tell me how many months. I think it's 9 months in, right? Okay. So we're about 9 months into an 18-month process. And what we believe in terms of public engagement is that you don't do it once, and you certainly don't do it at the end. And that's why we keep bringing you back and we keep asking you questions. And you might say, well, I just filled out this survey 3 weeks ago. Why are you asking me to also come to this meeting? Is it going to be the same stuff? And the answer is no, it's not. We've actually tried to understand what you told us through the survey and then created something to show you to see if we got it right. And so this process is really iterative, and it's important to repeat, and it's important to bring people in at many, many stages throughout the process, not just the end. Does that make sense? Okay, great. Next slide. All right, so this phase 2 that we're in right now, Braintree Tomorrow, is about envisioning the future. The phase that we're going to go into after that is figuring out, well, how do you do it? What does that mean about zoning? What does that mean about how the town prioritizes where its funds go? What does that mean about how much funding it needs and where does it come from? What does that mean about capacity and how you create programs and what you spend your board and commission time on? We're not there yet, but that's the next phase. That's where this is leading to. But we need to get the overall policy right first, because otherwise we don't know what we're trying to figure out how to implement. And that's what this is all about. This is one of the most pivotal times in this process, because if you tell us that you want, I'm just going to throw out something that I don't think it will be a controversial part, but you could tell me later if it is. If you tell me that you want to preserve more open space than the 22% protected open space you have now, then that leads us to different strategies than if you tell me you want to keep the amount of open space you have preserved and not preserve anymore. Now, I'm just using that as an example that I hope is not a controversial example. But what I'm saying is that what you tell us here and what folks who want to look online and look at this draft vision statement tell us, and what we learn from all the other engagement activities that we're still summarizing will help us set that policy. And then when we get to the next stage, we're going to help you figure out how to do it. But that's why this is so important. Does that make sense? Okay, great. And so I want to say how we got to come up with the things you're going to look at around the room. So the purpose of this phase, this visioning the future phase, is to try to reach as many people as possible. And we know that we can't do that if all we ask you to do is come in on a Saturday afternoon and sit here listening to me speak and then write Post-it notes. So that's why we also did a community survey we're doing something called, and by we, I mean the project team. I don't mean me. I mean the whole master plan committee, your town staff, and all of the people who have been involved in really rolling up their sleeves in this. And so there was a survey. There's something we call the meeting in a box. Has anybody heard of that yet? Great. Did anybody participate in one? Great. So those were just little meetings master plan committee members and other members of the community had, maybe in their living room, maybe I don't even know where they were all held. The senior center I know you had one at. And it's just a way to reach more people. Then we had something we're calling a crowd map activity. Did anybody see those maps that Melissa and her team and I think Erin and I'm not sure who else passing around at different events? Well, that's what we call the crowd map. You put something on the map and you say, I'd like to see this changed in our town, or I want to see this preserved in our town. We had that activity, and we're still collecting those results, but I think that that's been successful too in terms of reaching people. Then we have today's forum, and then we're also going to have a presentation to get more public feedback. So after today, and after you tell us what do you think about what we came up with as our first stab, then we revise it, and then in December we want to present it at a master plan committee meeting. It'll be on December 15th. I hope you can all come out. We're going to also ask the planning board and the town council to attend, hear the presentation about what we've learned from the community, and this is what we think a vision statement is that reflects what we've heard. Then the master plan committee will take more public feedback at that meeting to say, do you think we're getting that right? Okay? So I just want to emphasize there are lots of times to participate. I do want to also just say briefly that the survey, as the mayor said, was very well responded to. It had 1,741 responses. And we'll talk a little bit about those findings in a minute. Next. Oh, right now, actually. Can I have my water? Thanks. All right. You're going to see me try to, hold on. I'm going to put this down for just a second. Thank you, Dave. All right. So, what did the survey say? So some of you may have already seen these boards. They're somewhere. I think they're over there. So we asked a series of questions. Some people thought the survey was too long, and it was long. How many of you took it? I forget if I asked you that. Many of you, maybe most. Wonderful. So it was long, and that's because we're doing a master plan, which really looks at all of those elements that I said before. Of course, people could skip over questions if they weren't interested in answering them all, but I'm going to share the results. And so the first one I have here, I think we're going in alphabetical order, just to be completely fair. So which of the following historical or cultural initiatives or facilities would you like to see in Braintree in the next 10 years? So I'm just going to read you the ones that I think got more than 50% who said they were very interested or interested. And I'm basically eyeballing that right now. So I'm going to go down to here. So they say more arts and cultural events, expanded or improved library, community center, and greater support for preservation and rehabilitation of historic buildings. Those were what I see here have gotten either very interested or interested over 50%. And you can examine these more in the back. Next slide. This one is, as Braintree's population changes, what types of housing choices would you like to see more of, if any, in the next 10 years? And so if I take my middle line, I'm going to go down to here. So we have service enriched, helping older adults age in the community and others with special needs. That's the first one. Second is more single-family homes. Third, more age-restricted housing for residents over 55 years old. And then fourth, I have accessible homes for individuals with disabilities. Okay, next slide. You guys can all still hear me, right? Okay. All right, next one is, what kinds of open space and recreation resources would you like to see for the community to use and enjoy in the next decade? So, looking at, and actually, sorry, they're all over 50%. So I'm going to actually read all of them in order. improve cleaning and regular maintenance of existing recreation facilities, improve recreation facilities just in general, improvements to playgrounds and parks, acquire more conservation land for public enjoyment of nature, improve the quality of water bodies for swimming, expand river access and the river walk. And I'm hesitant to say this because I'm probably going to say it wrong because I keep spelling it wrong, as people point out. Monodequate? Monadequate. All right, I was so close. Okay. Create more recreation facilities for youth, expand and or connect hiking trails, and then the last one, create more recreation facilities for older adults. Okay? So everything in that category got over 50%. Next. All right. What types of capital improvement projects would you like to see Braintree implement in the next decade? So I'm going to go down and I see that everything up to here got over 50%. So we're going to do ensure the town's water and sewer infrastructure is adequate to serve the community. Number 2, continue to invest in the modernization of schools and reconstruction of public schools. Ensure the town's stormwater system can continue to meet the needs of storm events as events increase with longer durations and more intensity. And then the 4th one is modernize and expand the senior center, which could also support new offices for veteran affairs. Okay, next one. And then what types of sustainability and resilience approaches and initiatives would you like to see Braintree take in the next 10 years? So we have 50% is here, so I'm going to go down to here. Strategically plant trees to reduce urban heat island effects. Reduce solid waste through reuse, recycling, and composting. 3, produce more renewable energy. 4, upgrade infrastructure, providing resources for hazard resilience. And 5, increasing walking and biking infrastructure to reduce dependency of single occupancy vehicles. And I'm going down to here. So identify gaps in services and develop strategies to address them. Next. All right, I'm thinking this might be the last one, but I'm actually not sure. No? All right. Okay, so all of these got over 50%. This question was, within the next decade, how interested would you be in the following initiatives related to natural resources? So 1 was restore vegetative buffers to water bodies to filter pollutants and improve water quality. 2nd, preserve and restore natural habitats. 3rd, increase the tree canopy. So you see a little overlap, but one was focused on doing that for a specific reason, and here is just increasing it because it's a natural resource. The next one is limit impervious surfaces for new development or redevelopment. And the last one, lower water consumption and reduce waste generation. Next. Which, if any, of the following business types would you like to see more of in Braintree? And so if we look at the 50% line, I'm going to go down to here. Local restaurants is number 1. Local retail is number 2. Culture and entertainment, including, or examples, theater, music, venues, etc. Entrepreneurship, healthcare and social assistance, research and development, advanced manufacturing. Next, business to consumer services like accountants and legal services, and chain retail is in there too. Oh, I guess I said I go down to here. Restaurant, chain restaurants. So those are in that top, that got more than 50%, but they're down here. Okay, next. Which types of transportation infrastructure or services would you like to see in Braintree in the next decade? And so 50% includes all of them. So we've got make improvements to reduce traffic congestion is number 1. Number 2, improve roads to reduce crashes and increase safety is number 2. 3, improve and expand the sidewalk network. 4, improve access and availability of public parking in local business districts. 5, sorry, I should have numbered these. 5. Expand transportation options for older adult residents. 6, improve connectivity for bicyclists and pedestrians to transit stops. 7, expand bicycling infrastructure. Examples were bike paths, bike lanes, bike parking stations. And then the last one, which I think, do you guys agree that has it's like right on the line. I'm going to read it anyway. Increase public transportation within Braintree, meaning more like local options. That's what that meant. Okay. All right. Is that the last one? No. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. That's the last one. Okay. Of that segment. So again, I know I gave that to you pretty quickly. We have all of those same exact boards on the slides, or slides on the boards back there in the corner if you want to look at that in more detail. All right. So today, why are we here? What is the purpose? So we're here. We structured this so we can actually hear from you and get your opinion. So I'm going to stop talking pretty soon. Second, how? There are stations around the room. We're going to have the master plan committee members in just a minute go up and stand at those stations so that you can actually talk to them about the different things that are on these stations. I'm going to tell you what they are in a minute, but basically these are all separated out into different categories. And then what we'd like you to do is participate by really telling us what you think. And if you write it down, we will record it as part of the results. We will type every single thing that you write down. We'll type it up, and we'll count up. I'm going to show you this little thumbs up, thumbs down thing we're going to do with dot stickies. It's kind of like a voting mechanism. We're going to count those up and report out what we heard. And then we're going to make revisions at the next master plan committee meeting, which will be on November 17th. We're going to digest what we heard from all of the platforms that we talked about, not just this, and try to figure out how to revise this. The next thing is, where did the things you'll see on these boards, where did that come from? So we don't have all the information yet. We don't have the information yet from all of the crowd map activity or all the meeting in a box. We just closed that deadline down yesterday. So we still need to go through and analyze all of that. So what we did is we looked at the survey results, and we worked with the master plan committee at their last meeting, I think it was October 3rd or 4th, whatever that Monday night was. And we did a collaborative working session discussion with them about what do we want to see in a vision statement that's our first take on it that we want to get opinions of. And that's how we got to where we are now. So I'm acknowledging we did not have all your feedback yet, but we wanted to make sure that we move the process forward while we're still collecting additional feedback. Does this make sense? Seem reasonable? Hopefully. Okay. All right, next. All right, so now we're going to talk about what these stations are. So there's the quantitative survey results right back there in the corner. That's a station. I don't think we have any, participation. It's more about you can read what I just yelled at you in part. The next one, Alana, you're going to have to help me. Where's the overall? Okay. Okay, great. So, yeah, actually, Shelley, do you mind being like Vanna White and walking to, okay. All right, so Shelley is on the master plan committee, and she's going to show us. So this is the overall vision statement, and that is basically trying to capture that high-level thinking, okay? And I'm going to actually show you what that is on a slide in a minute, and you also have it. Where's the handout? Hopefully when you got your agenda, you also took one of these. If not, I'm sure we have plenty of them in the back. This is it. It's right here. In 2033, Braintree will be. That's what's on that board, and we want to know what you think of it. And then we have these core themes. So, Shelley, could you move to A? I'm assuming they're in order. So core theme A is, actually, you have it right here. So, we numbered them 1 through 5. The boards are numbered A, B, C, D, E instead of 1 through 5. So A is 1. So the one that Shelley's standing by now says, stronger protection of natural resources and expanded conservation uses areas, that foster community connection to the natural world. And there's a lot more language over there. I'm just reading you the heading. So take some time, digest it, kind of explains what we mean by that, what we're thinking. And we want your comments on that one. So B is number 2 on your sheet. And that one, Shelley, I think is here, right? Okay, so that one is careful growth policies that promote local business, strategically repurposed sites, and vibrant traditional commercial squares. Then 3 is C, which is here. So 3 on your sheet is C over here. And that one reads, upgraded roadways and traffic infrastructure that are safe, reduce neighborhood cut-through traffic, and help residents get around the town and region. Then we have D, which is 4 on your sheet, which is over here. D says, enhanced community vitality and careful growth policies that promote more options for seniors and smaller single-family home ownership that create and free up affordable residence for new and existing community members at all stages of life. It's a long sentence. We tried to pack a lot in there. That's what's at D, right? D? Yeah. And then E is your number 5, and that is the last core theme. That one is new, expanded, and modernized public schools, infrastructure, and services, as well as results-oriented government. And if that doesn't make sense to you, please read the more detailed description on the board. So that's an orientation of what we have around the room in terms of overall vision statement that's here, and then those core themes. We have one more station, and it's actually a big station. It's all those tables in the back. What do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tables, if I counted right. And they have on them what we're calling areas of interest. There are areas that we've heard from people they want to either see changed, they want to see repurposed, or they want to see improved in some way. And those areas, actually, can you go through the slides a little bit? So I'm not going to read this. It's actually, go through slower. I'm going to talk briefly about, no, I did, and then I changed my mind mid-sentence. Okay, so what's on the screen, I know you can't read because the TVs are small, but that's what's on your paper. Okay, so I'm not going to read it to you, but that's the overall vision. Then let's go to the next one is what we're asking you at each station. So we're going to ask you to take a little dot sticker and vote thumbs up, thumbs down, or somewhere in the middle for each of that overall and then the 5 core themes. And then, next, we're going to ask you 3 questions at each of those stations. One is, what is something that you like about this draft vision component? You can say nothing if you don't like it at all, but we're hoping you might like something about it. And then the next question is, what suggestions do you have for changing the way we wrote it, the way it is now? Give us any suggestions. You can say, strike this phrase. You can say, you forgot something. Add something else. And then the third question is, what ideas do you have for ways that we could reach that vision? And so that's kind of like a bonus point, because that's really what we're going to work on in the next phase. But we thought you may come here with some ideas about how you want to see things done, that if you want to share them, you can use that third question to share. Is this making sense just in terms of the, okay. All right, now I'm going to get to that areas of interest one. So the next slide is about the areas of interest. So what is that? So we worked with the Master Plan Committee to identify A through I. So how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Did I count right? 9? Okay, thank you. We have 9 areas of interest, and then we also have a question saying, do you think there are other areas of interest? And what we mean are, these are places that people have already told us, we want to see something different here, or we want to see improvements. So we have 90 Pond Street, which is the youth center, right? Does everybody know that town-owned building? Okay. We have Braintree Square. We have South Braintree Square. We have the Ivory Street Corridor, the Landing, South Shore Plaza, Wood Road area, Quincy Ave area, and Granite/Pond Street Corridor. So you may say, I love those places, I want nothing to be different, and that's fine. You could say we're off the mark. You may say, I really want to focus on one of these things, whichever property, pick your choice, is the one I really want to focus on. Or you may give comments on all of them if you'd like. It's totally up to you, but that's what's over there. It's saying, If you want to see something different than what's there now, or something improved about what's there now, what is it? Tell us about it. Envision in 10 years what you'd like to see changed, okay? So that's it. That's the whole exercise. Before I move on to the kind of the closing and the immediate next steps, does anyone have questions about the organization of this and what we're asking? Yes.
Are the themes, can you hear me? Oh. Are the themes prioritized by the committee already? Like, is A the top priority?
A great question. Thank you, Carrie. Yeah. The themes are not prioritized, but we did think about the order of them. So if you know, for what that's worth. We felt like, oh gosh, we want people to read about natural resources and conservation areas first before they start to read about careful growth policies, for what that's worth. Does that mean they're prioritized? Not really. But if you think that there are certain priorities, that's worth saying too. You can say it on one of your sticky notes like, this is a real priority. This one I agree with, but it's not a priority for me. So that's fair to add to your sticky notes. Other questions about how we structured this and what we're asking you to do? Yes. Oh, can I ask this because the TV people can't hear you? No, that's okay. They won't want to hear me probably.
I just would like to know exactly what does the term repurpose mean? I'd like that defined.
Yeah, great question. Okay, so Susan caught me using jargon. I said repurpose, which is a term planners use all the time, but not everybody uses that word in daily life. So repurpose means if there is a use there, I'm going to pick the Department of Motor Vehicle site. If you want to see something, and I'm not talking about the DMV specifically, but that whole site. If you want to see that changed to be used for something else, that's what I mean by repurpose. Take something that's already developed, maybe it's vacant, maybe it's underutilized, maybe you think something is an eyesore, and do you want to see something different there, and what would it be? Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions about structure, what we're asking you to do? Okay. Next slide. All right, so what happens right after this? I want to give you the immediate next steps. So I already said these dates, but I'm going to say them again. So on November 17th, we're having the committee doesn't even know this yet, and I don't even think Melissa knows this yet, but we want to have a 3-hour working session with the Master Plan Committee about the vision, trying to digest everything we've heard from the public process and really rolling up their sleeves, getting out their pens, doing their homework, coming prepared, and we're going to run that on November 17th. Anyone's welcome to come. It is an open public meeting. It will be televised. However, this is a discussion the Master Plan Committee needs to have themselves because they're trying to understand what you've already told them and make changes to this. But again, you're welcome to come and encouraged to come. And at the end of that, I believe we're going to have some open public comment so that you can tell the committee if you think they're heading in the right direction. Okay? And then the next meeting is going to be on December 15th, and that will be a presentation to the Master Plan Committee, but we are inviting the planning board members and the town councilors to come, and the members of the public. It's an open public presentation, and we want to present where are we now? What did we hear? How did we change this based on the November 17th meeting, and what do people think of it? And there'll be open public comment at that meeting as well. We also would hope to hear from the planning board members and the town councilors. What did they think of where we're landing with this vision? Does it make sense? Yes, question? I don't know. 7 is when we usually meet. Probably 7. That's right. Yeah, so we talked about, yeah, it's definitely evening. So we talked about November 17th possibly being at 6:30, but we need to poll the committee to see if they can come that early. Normally the meetings are at 7, okay, but it will all be posted, and I'm sorry I don't have a definitive time right now. All right, next. Who else wanted to ask a question? Sorry, who was it? I'm sorry, I'm not seeing. It's just someone. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Oh, I should have given everybody the mic. I'll repeat it. Yep. No, okay. So let me just say, I mentioned this in the beginning. This microphone doesn't work for you. It only works for the people on the TV. And unfortunately, I am trying to yell my loudest, and I really hope that the folks in the back, if you're having trouble hearing me, will please come up to the front. I don't need to stand this close to this chair. If you want to come right here, I will stand over here. So we're almost done, though, with this presentation. Okay, sure. When somebody asks a question, repeat the question. That's fair. And I think you heard what does repurpose mean? Someone asked, remind me, are these prioritized? The answer was no, but if you have a priority, you should tell us. Somebody asked the time of the meeting, and I said, we don't know. It's either 6:30 or 7. And did I miss one? All right. Okay, next question, next slide. I think we're opening up to, I just want to give one plug. There's a project website. How many of you been on that website? A few of you, great. Okay, so there is a QR code and a link. We have your name and email if you signed in or signed up for this, so we can, and my team make a note that I'm promising this so we don't forget it. We can email all of you with the link to this website so that you can find it. And it's on your handout. Brilliant. Okay. Yes, Dave. Yeah, that's because I used an old one, but they both work. Very observant. Yeah. I created a new QR code for this because I didn't have this one. Yeah, thank you. I'm impressed you realize that. That's awesome. Okay, next is public comment, I think. Yes, okay, thank you. That's it for me. And now Chair Wadlin will open this up to any questions.
Hi, everyone. All right, there's no I in the master plan, so we would love to hear any comments that the public would make, any statements. Does anyone want to speak on the process? Oh, yeah, this isn't really working. Does anyone want to speak on the process? The mayor's here if you have any questions. Okay, do you want to, well, you can just stand up. Dan Clifford has a question. I agree with you. I will say that from what my meeting with Jen today, we come up with a vision, right, that we agree on, and then after that, there is a whole section on strategies to get to that vision. Like Jen had mentioned, okay, so as a community, we want more open space, potentially, right? So Jen was saying that, you know, right now we have 22%. So as a community, what do we want to get to? Is it 30%? And then we are accountable to that percent. So I agree. I'm all about how do you get to the next step and following the plan. And I agree with you. I don't know why the plan was or wasn't followed, but I agree with you. There has to be strategies, and that is the next step. And we would love for you to come to that meeting. There'll be several meetings and public comment, but maybe you can get on one of those focus groups to come out with the strategies to get to the vision. And the strategies have to be followed by the community and the leadership in the community. That's true, 100%. Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Does anyone else have comments? Yes, please. Yep, Jen will answer that. Do you want to take it?
Yeah, that's a great question. This comes up all the time, especially early in a process when a community is feeling like, why are we going through this if nobody's going to do it? And it's a good question. And so when we get to phase 4, you know, Jennifer said in phase 3, we'll be talking about, well, how do you do this? What are you actually trying to do? And having metrics that you can measure it, but it doesn't really matter if we write a metric in a plan if nobody's going to actually measure it down the road or follow it. And so what we recommend, and some towns don't follow our advice, but what we recommend is appointing an implementation committee who is responsible and accountable. Twice a year is what we recommend. You can say something different if you want, but twice a year they go to the town council and give a report. This is what has been followed through on. This is where we stand right now. they put a spreadsheet or some other format online so that any member of the public can go in and say, oh, I wonder what happened with that strategy 2, 3, in the open space area, whatever happened, and they give a status report on your website so that everybody in the community always knows what's happening. And so without that kind of accountability, this particular committee, this implementation plan committee, can't actually do anything to make things happen, but they would oversee all the people in the town. Like, there'll be things that the planning board will need to do. There'll be things that the mayor will need to do. There'll be things the town councilors will need to do. And they will be very transparent about, well, what is being done and what isn't being done. And so having that kind of open reporting is what we recommend. The other thing that we've seen that is helpful is when the town designates money for that implementation committee right away, so that there are always studies that come out of a process like this, because we can't get into all the level of detail. Like if you want a neighborhood plan to beautify South Braintree Square, we're not going to do that in the master plan. We're going to say, do a neighborhood plan to beautify South Braintree Square, and these are a bunch of tools you can consider. But that committee can actually hire someone to do that plan if they have money. And so we like to recommend, at least, whether the towns listen to us is another story, but we like to recommend that some money be designated in year one, especially, so that some of those studies can be done right away, so that you're not waiting around for those to be done. So there are probably some other things we'll think of as too along the way, but those are some of the best practices.
Okay, anyone else have any questions, comments? Right. We did have a very successful survey, more successful here than any other community. We had about 4.5% respond to the survey, which is actually a lot better than some of the other communities get. So we do have a lot of feedback to work with. And most of you have taken the survey. We know what you want. We heard it loud and clear. We heard it what you don't want. We heard it loud and clear. And it's really up to us now to kind of hone in on this vision and then get strategies behind it. And Jen had mentioned that there could be a independent committee that makes sure to hold the kind of the feet to the fire, if you will, that we're following the plan, right? And maybe that didn't happen in 1998. I'm not really sure, but that sounds like it needs to happen here, because there's been a lot of engagement, and I'm sure all of you could be 1,000 other places right now, and if you're going to participate, you want to make sure that it's being followed. So I think that will be a major question as we move forward with this. How do we ensure that? Is there anybody else? Okay, so I say everyone go to if the master plan committee can go to the stations, your stations that you've been assigned, and then everyone go to the stations that you'd like to begin at, and we'd love to get your feedback. Thank you.